For Module 17, there are three basic formulas that they talk about all the time, which is the quadratic formula, the discriminant, and the vertex formula. And what may seem like these are three totally different formulas that you have to memorize, what I think is important is to notice that really they all come from the quadratic formula. They all are parts of that. So if you memorize your quadratic formula, you're really good to go. If you look closely at the quadratic formula, notice that the discriminant is just the part that's under the square root. So again, if you have memorized the quadratic formula, you've already got the discriminant. And then if you're really looking closely, check out this vertex formula where it tells you how to find the x and how to find the y value. Notice that that's also built in. It's right there. So if you remember the quadratic formula, you've really got all three of your formulas in one. You've got your vertex formula, you've got your discriminant, and you've got your the quadratic formula. And what's important is, if we really look into that, I'm going to skip down here a little bit, is to see how all of those work together to tell you all of the information you need to know about a parabola. So I'm just going to draw a random parabola down here. Now, what the vertex finds, so when you find this negative b over 2a part here, that finds the x value, and then all this notation over here means is, okay, now sub that x value in to find its corresponding y. You're finding the point, that's the vertex. So you're finding this point right here. That's your vertex. Okay, that finds the center value for you. Now notice how the quadratic formula is built. It says go from this negative b over 2a value and then go either positive or negative by this much, and that will tell me where I cross the x-axis, right? So if I go from this vertex and I go positive a certain amount and then negative that same amount, I should land at the 2 points where it crosses the x-axis. So that's how your quadratic formula works, or how it's built. It says start in the center and then go positive and negative the same amount. That's where you should cross the x-axis. Other questions will also possibly ask you, what is the axis of symmetry? Well, if I'm going to cut this parabola right in half, the equation of the line there, because it's a straight vertical line, it's x equals something. So it's x equals, and notice it's going to be at whatever value the x of the vertex is. So your vertex x value is negative b over 2a, and then again the y is found by just subbing that back in. So that's why the equation for the axis of symmetry is always just x equals the negative b over 2a. It's simply x equals the value that you already found for your vertex, and that's going to chop it right in half. So all of these numbers, they seem like you're memorizing multiple different things, but you're not. You're really just using the same concepts over and over in slightly different scenarios. The other thing they might ask you is, what's the y-intercept? So if I ever want to find a y-intercept, remember I would just sub in an x value of 0 and find its corresponding y. So you can build all of the important parts of your parabola from that. The other two things that you really have to distinguish or keep straight, I guess, in Module 17 are the two different forms that they might write a quadratic equation in. So there's what they call vertex form, and then there's standard form. When it's given in this vertex form, you should be able to just read the vertex straight out. When they give it to you like this, the vertex is h, k. Notice that in the formula, the signs matter. The h value will always be the opposite of whatever's listed, and the k will always be exactly what is listed. For instance, if I had something like y equals negative 2, x plus 7 squared plus 3, and I want to know what's the vertex, this one always goes opposite of whatever it was listed, and that's because of this negative sign built in. So this one has to switch to a negative 7. This one's always the same, so 3. Now I know what my vertex is. That also tells me that I know what the axis of symmetry is, and I could build off of this. I also know from this formatting that it opens down because of that negative sign. I could start drawing this if I wanted to. I could draw a parabola that's centered at -7, 3, opening down. I could then start working to find these x-intercepts if I needed to, but at least it would give me some place to start. Okay, now I'm going to pick a different color. If I go over here to my standard form, I can't just read off the vertex. It's not in a format that allows me to do that. So in this form is when I would need to use that -b/2a formula. I would sub the values in, find the x value, resub it back in to find the y value, and build it from there. So the steps that you use or the procedure that you use varies depending on which format it's given to you in. And for this course, we don't really want to focus, we don't want to try to change it from one format to another format. Like if I'm given this, I don't want to try to convert it into this. I don't want to do that. So instead, I would just change my procedure and just use this other method. Really, those to me are the big ideas. If you are given a word problem, what I want you to focus on is what are they asking you to find? Are they asking you to find x-intercepts? Or are they asking you to find the vertex? Okay, because that depends on, or that determines which formula you're going to use, right? If it's an x-intercept question, then I want to use the quadratic formula. If it's a vertex question, I want to use the x equals -b/2a formula. So just look for keywords or think about what the image would look like. If they're asking you, when will something hit the ground, right? If they're asking you, when will it hit the ground, that's an x-intercept question. If they're asking you, how high will it go, that's a vertex question. Or how low will it go? That would also be a vertex question. So that would be my key for every question, every word problem question, is read it carefully and decide which one of these two things is it asking you for. And again, that will then lead you down which formula should I apply in this situation.